I have for a long time been deeply invested in the concept of designing my own life. In fact, I was doing it for many years before I noticed that that was what I was up to. It's an approach that adds a layer of intentionality to the way most people absent-mindedly stumble through their lives. This isn't about goal setting, by the way. There's nothing wrong with goal setting, but this approach is more holistic. What it involves is starting with an organizing principle, an endpoint, and working backwards from there. It's strategic rather than tactical. It means reverse engineering your life on the basis of a finished product, that finished product being your future self. Most people begin constructing a personality at the foundation of their life after their early childhood experience, laying down one block at a time. They proceed without a destination in mind. Those blocks are usually either inherited from their parents or are formed in response to their parents. So anyway, I mentioned the approach of reverse engineering your life, so let me tell you a little more about how that works. You could choose to do it as a visualization exercise. You picture your life at 50 or 60 or 70, and then think through the steps it would take to get you there. I expect to live in this kind of house, with this kind of partner, and spend my time in these kinds of ways. The problem with that approach, though, is that it tends to narrow your life into an economic project where you're mainly focused on financial objectives to make all those other things possible. It's okay, but I don't love it. Life is not a business case. What I did in my life was simply picture introducing myself to an interesting person at a party sometime in the future. I reverse engineered my life from the story I wanted to tell that person about who I am. Now, you could choose other ways of doing the same thing. If you were really ambitious, for example, you could work backwards from your Time Magazine Person of the Year profile or from your New York Times obituary. Or if you're a particular kind of Christian, you could work backwards from the review of your life before the great white throne of judgment at the end of time. The only thing that is important is that the circumstances and the audience have to be meaningful to you. For me, I just imagined introducing myself to someone who I would want to like me, who I would want to impress. Of course, that means your life choices will be measured against the opinions of someone else in this thought experiment, and that might seem shallowly performative. But if I really think about it, the imaginary person I wanted to impress in the future had a lot in common with me. Another way of putting it was, I wanted to become the kind of person I would be really excited to meet at a party. So how do you operationalize that? You picture this motivating situation where your life story is shared, but how do you use it as a guide to action in the day-to-day? Well, it's important to point out that you can't just choose to be a long list of awesome things that you selected from a catalog. I think it would be pretty cool to tell someone at a party that I have a PhD in particle physics, but I don't have the kind of brain that would make that possible. I think it would be pretty cool to tell someone at a party that I played professional hockey in my early 20s, but I did not have the level of skill required to make that possible either. That "you can be anything you choose" sermon that well-meaning adults preach to children just isn't true, at least as far as I can tell. We don't get to design our lives with total freedom. I don't know if you've ever heard this before, but the block of marble that Michelangelo used for the David was famously problematic. It had already been partially worked on by other sculptors and was considered flawed. It was long and narrow with internal imperfections. Because of this, Michelangelo did not have complete freedom to design the figure in any pose he wanted. He had to work within the constraints of the block's shape and weaknesses, which probably influenced some of the quirks of its proportions, like the elongated limbs and the very large hands. Those restrictions, though, didn't keep him from creating a masterpiece. In the same way, when you think about designing your life, you're going to have to consider the less than infinite possibilities of the material you're working with, your abilities and disabilities, your financial advantages and disadvantages, etc. Some options will simply not be available to you, but others will. I thought it would be cool if I knew how to play the guitar, so I taught myself. I thought it would be cool if I could draw well, so I worked hard at it over the years. Je pensais aussi que ce serait cool de parler français, et parfois je suis pas trop mal. All you can do is work at the possibilities that come your way. Some will go well, and some won't. Some will last, and some will fade away. Some will start as one thing and turn into something else. But over time, you will develop a suite of attributes, abilities, and accomplishments that are uniquely yours. And maybe someday you and I will chat at a party, and I'll walk away saying, that guy's pretty cool. Oh, and before I go, if you thought this video was pretty cool, please take a moment to like and maybe even subscribe. I would definitely like you more if you did. Take care.